All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo Podcast, Kamloops Unscripted Podcast, because, I really should have a tagline.
That's a good one.
Thank you, yeah. And so this episode is actually brought to you by Ready at Door, which, if you haven't used yet, it's a local option for Skip the Dishes. You know what Skip the Dishes are, but the problem is all that money, it leaves the town. It doesn't stay in Kamloops. So support these guys. They're two young developers out of Kamloops Innovation Center. They got like 8 or 9 or 10 really awesome Kamloops restaurants on their service. And yeah, they'll bring you your food. Like, how cool is that? It's just like Skip the Dishes, but again, local. And just for you, they have $5 off your first purchase if you use Cameo at takeout or the whatever when you're finalizing your order. So I've done my ad read there.
That's a good one. I like that.
Perfect.
I hadn't even heard of them.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. They're not super marketing people. So we're working together, and a couple young hustlers working together and making something happen. But since you can't actually see who I'm talking to, actually you can if you are watching, because I've started recording on video and I'm still figuring out where I'm putting that. But my guest here is Jason, who comes from the basement.
Yes, from one half of We Came from the Basement.
Well, actually, no. Technically, I read your bio on Facebook.
That's
There's
true.
Amy.
There's Amy as well, who hasn't been on for a while. And then we've got Mike S., who's our Twitter guy.
Okay.
And he fills in on the show when
Twitter
Sean's
guy.
sick. Yeah, well, we have our live segment on Radio NL on Friday mornings. And so Mike tweets along to the segment. And he used to do that. We used to be on the X for a number of years. We had a live hour-long show Friday nights, and he'd tweet along to the whole thing. It's like a running Twitter commentary as we did our show.
Okay.
So he would fit in that. But on the people on-air people, it's typically Sean and I.
There's a lot of people who I'm meeting lately have been involved in the X.
It's a great place to get going. A really good place to get going.
It seems like Brian from Hurtin' For Real started there. I just met another guy who was an Indian fellow who wanted to start like something on the X. There is someone in the community group who has like a Bollywood show on the X.
Yeah. Mitch was involved too, who runs Redbeard here where we're sitting. He used to be involved with the X as well.
Yeah, I used to always plug the cafe I would record at.
There you go.
But I've replaced it now with an actual ad read, so I forget.
What do I know?
So
sorry about that.
No. Actually, all the cafes are super supportive of what I've done.
That's awesome.
I've not had a single person ever have an issue with it. The closest was like A&W manager just being like, don't take any photos with our logo in it, and that was cool.
That's awesome.
So you started on the X, then you translated to a podcast?
Well, actually, no. We started as a podcast in January 2010, and we did that for a good 8 months. We got some momentum going. We're trying to figure out, well, how do we grow our audience? So we approached the X saying, hey, could we do some advertising with you guys? And how would you guys like to do a show? So okay, we figured we'd do that. And we got we thought it was great. It was like prime movie watching time, 10 o'clock Friday night. Because that's what people do, right? They sit down Friday nights and have a few beers and watch a movie. So that's the mentality that we brought to our show. And we did that for about 2-3 years. And that was really where we cut our teeth. Like, you got really good. You had an hour. You had to fill it. We came up with good content. We got really good at thinking on our feet. On the air, we got clout because you're on the radio, so we actually started doing interviews with people in the industry.
I hate and love that word.
Which one?
Clout.
It's a horrible thing. But you need legit, I guess, cred, whatever the word is now,
Influence,
right?
Influence, clout. No, it's all about clout.
Right? You need something or more validity, I guess, becoming more official, right?
Totally.
So that really worked out for us really well. And we did that for, like I said, about 3 years. Then we left just because doing the job, that was like a full-time job on top of our full-time jobs. We both have families, we both have wives and kids. It's like, it's busy. It keeps you going, right? So we went back to being a podcast for a while. Then we quit. We actually quit. And we've stopped and started a few times. And then this last June, Radio NL was going through kind of an overhaul. And
I remember, yeah.
How would you guys like to come on and do a Friday morning segment? And that brought us back in full steam ahead. And we did that. It was only 8 to 10 minutes. But then our audience that actually stuck with us for all these years was like, well, that's not enough. And you guys have to be very official and very streamlined. We miss that kind of more rough and tumble Sean thing. Yeah. So Sean's like, well, why don't we do an extended cut podcast? So we create content around the NL segment when we put it on our site. We Came from the Basement.
It's kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk's idea of having pillar content and then you make up little micro content snippets.
Exactly, and that's exactly it, right? And we kind of just started doing like Facebook Live, and we started putting that on YouTube because everything really is going. People want audio that they can listen while they're doing something, or they want us to be able to watch it.
Totally. When did they approach you?
It was this past June.
In June. So my daughter was born April 3rd.
Okay.
And I had a meeting with Radio and Al's people at that time.
Oh, wow, really?
And I had to cancel it at like 6 a.m. because my daughter came. And then I managed to like actually go like the next day or whatever and I gave them like my pitch. But I cost too much for them because I was looking to move jobs at the time.
Yeah.
And they just weren't able to meet the numbers that I thought were totally plausible.
Yeah, well, it's radio, man. And media this day and age, it just... There's not a lot of money to play with.
There's not a lot of money, but there's a ton of money, which is something I really struggle with as like I grow my podcast, which I'm looking at your numbers that are visible, and it's like your podcast is going to destroy me on any given number or day, but my monetization, right, is through content creation with businesses rather than distribution, right?
That's right.
So there's money there if you're willing to do it, but also this idea of like, yeah, you literally could make $85,000 a year talking about peanut butter.
Oh yeah,
like that is not just a meme; it is real.
It's a business. It's a business model. And you look at people on YouTube monetize, like the gamers off of Twitch, man. Like they make crazy money, just doing what they love to do.
Well,
right?
The video game industry made more money than Hollywood last year.
Well, Red Dead Redemption 2 had the biggest 3-day opening of any entertainment anything in history. $750 million in 3 days worldwide.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
But when you first actually approached me about this stuff, right? I didn't do a lot of research because I'm not into the nerd podcast.
No, it's
world.
Yeah,
The film movie buff.
Yeah.
Let's watch this film and critique it. Like that's not my level podcast. I'm all biz dev, self improvement, and that world, right? So. When I first, I'm like, and then as I researched more and more into it, it's like, okay, they've been doing this for a long time. They got the cred, they got the clout.
Yeah.
But they also started at a time when, you've got almost a decade worth of experience doing this because now everyone and their dog is getting into it.
There was a few sites, like there was the big sites, like at that point there was Ain't It Cool, Joe Blow, Arrow in the Head. There's those kind of big sites for doing it. And then there was kind of us little guys. And then now, you're right. Like, I mean, now you look at Facebook where everybody can kind of promote their stuff, and it's everyone, because everyone can. Anyone can buy a digital recorder, go out, talk for 20 minutes, and then post it onto the internet.
They don't even need to do that. They can use Anchor.fm and start a podcast. On their phone, cell phone, and maybe some headphones to make better quality sound with one person.
That's right. But not everybody. The thing is with something like this, Nevin, and I've listened to your show too, and I think it's really good. And I like your kind of unscripted method of doing it because it keeps it real. But not everybody that's doing it is good at it.
Oh, totally.
And there's actually quite a few people that are awful and should stop. And this is one of the things. Like Sean and I are kind of at a point where we want to take things to the next level, and that because we go like. We don't want to sound egotistical, but we sound better than they do, and we're more professional, and you know what I mean? And it's like, but they're making good money at it, so why aren't we, right?
You know what I found? Like, the hardest thing is whether or not someone wants to talk.
Yes.
Right? So, like, since my podcast is different in the sense that, like, it's not like two buddies drinking beers and watching movies like you guys, and you have that, like, camaraderie stuff. Like, I'm meeting people I've never met.
Yeah.
And I've always kept the cards in my hand and picked who I wanted to go meet with. And, when I feel it's the right time and place. But sometimes when I think it's the right time and place, it's the wrong person. Right?
Yeah.
And
yes,
so, like,
absolutely.
but they get excited that I want to meet with them, but it's not the right person to talk to because they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, so it's almost like you have to act, for me, I have to go to the people who are hounding me and chasing me, aka you. And some other people, the people who are reminding me and developing me and being like, hey, I'm interested, because those people have something to say.
Well, they do, and you want to talk. They want to talk to you, right? And we found that doing interviews. Like we've interviewed one guy that he's become a good friend, John Fallon. I'll give him a little plug here. He started as the Arrow at Arrow in the Head, and now he's a writer director making his own movies. Right? We built up a good rapport. We've worked with him on his projects. Like Sean's done music for one of his films. Been writing for him. But I mean, he's someone like he was good. You built the camaraderie. You talked. You had fun with him. He wanted to talk to you. But then we interviewed Corey Feldman.
Oh, he's an interesting cat.
He's an interesting cat. And we interviewed him about a movie that was coming out. It wasn't much of a film or anything like that. But you could tell he talked to us just because we were part of the rotation that was booked in.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, there's not a vibe. Like when you're talking to someone and you're clicking and it's working, you know it, right?
Totally.
Like, and it's a good back and forth. But other people, they're just answering your question. And it isn't interesting to listen to.
And that answering question is really tough for me as someone who's in the point of cutting their teeth.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have 8 years of experience, right? I'm learning as I go. I know when it was a bad interview or a good interview. And I've only actually scrapped one interview.
Oh, really?
So
what
far,
happened
yeah.
there?
I did a plug for something I didn't want to promote anymore.
Okay, yeah.
So I scrapped it. And it was the only one that I ever did like... No, not the only one. It was one of the only ones that was kind of like, we might as well just record a podcast.
Yeah.
You know,
Just cause.
just because I have the equipment in the back of my Escape, I'm portable, and let's do it, right? And I gave a plug, and I was holding out for it, and no, I was just like, no, this is not worth it, because it was like 12 minutes trying to pull teeth just to get a good conversation.
Yeah, and that, it's not working then. Like,
And then with the plug on top, it was like, no.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, though, are still like amazed about this whole podcasting thing, because like it's really not that special.
It's huge too. It is one of the biggest modes now. It's like YouTube, right? Like people don't need to listen to the radio. They'll just have their list of podcasts that they listen to every week and they subscribe to. And I do it at work. I put on a couple. I just listen to them in the background while I'm working,
Totally.
right? It's fantastic. This is becoming like the way to chat and get to know people and promote and work with people, right?
And then let me ask you this. Do you find you have like your work podcast and then your home podcast? Because like I got like my Spotify podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Which I do not have on my Pocket Casts thing.
All right.
So like I went through like a purge. And then I have my YouTube podcast. So like,
which is its own beast
which
altogether.
is its own beast
Oh, yeah,
altogether, right? Where it's like, this is where I just care about the audio and I don't care about the video feed, but I'm gonna tune on in, and it's just so particular because like I said, I do not do the gaming nerd film thing, right? Which obviously is one of the cornerstones of podcasting.
Well, and I think that's kind of where it got really going. That and some news, like spin-offs from news media, like radios like started to pull. CBC was late to the game, but other stations were taking their news broadcasts and just putting up online. I like to listen, like when I'm kind of working, for me it's mood, right? Like I'm a true crime buff, so there's like a true detective podcast, which is actually, they interview real detectives about their cases. So I'll listen to that if I'm in that kind of mood. I tried getting into that one. What is it? It was really popular. I think it still is. They came up with a book, and it was like a fake newscast about this town. Is this ringing any kind of bell?
No, I listened to the Gimlet Media one, which was like a fake alien sci-fi.
This might have been
message,
something like that. Yeah, and I couldn't get into it. Like everyone was raving about it, and I couldn't get into it. So I'll listen to others. Like I know there's other people in kind of our geek circle that like to support their stuff by listening to it, like the After Movie Diner, things like that. But it just kind of varies. I like this one site called Art of Manliness.
I know it, yeah.
And his cast can be quite interesting depending on who he brings in, right? So
yeah.
I like that stuff. Like
it's the problem I have with podcasting is I actually didn't want to do an interview podcast.
No?
Is not.
What was your vision when you sort of like, okay, I'm going to do something here?
I bought a microphone when I had like $150 in my bank, and this microphone cost me $130.
Okay, yeah.
And I was thinking I would send voice memos to my parents back in Ontario.
Yeah.
Of like updates on my daughter's life, and then eventually have enough content to hire an editor to like edit like a documentary of like becoming a dad.
That's a really
like
cool
an audio
idea. Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
But then it just kind of spun, and then I just found myself like, that's not sustainable to make content.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not at that level of like editing or have the interest of putting the time into it either.
It takes a lot of time to edit nicely. You know what I mean? To make it sound really crisp. It takes a lot of work. We sort of, when we do our show, we just do it live. We treat it like it's like we're still at the X doing it live, and then we just kind of, all right, we might cut out like the odd like gap that's too big, or if one of us has a brain fart halfway through.
Yeah.
But other than that, we don't edit. We just like to keep
Same.
it just raw, as
Well,
raw
I'm at
as
the point
possible.
where I don't even edit like the audio levels, like for the most part. Like I throw it into Audacity, I like normalize to make sure there's
Yep.
no like peaks, and then I just
we do
send
the
it
same
out.
thing. We just kind of make it so it all balances a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we sometimes do like the S pop or the pops. We try to remove some of that, but otherwise it's better raw. People like that, right? People love, people love live radio, like they love watching a live newscast or something. If something goes wrong, people love to sort of wait, see that moment, and to see how people recover from that moment.
Well, I think they like live radio back when radio hosts and radio jockeys could really have some fun. Like I like watching like Charlemagne the God, like down the States where they have like real hip hop stations. They put a lot of videos up, and they have like they're part of like the touring circuit of like these big celebrities now.
Yeah.
But in Canada, we don't get this like really like radio personality driven stuff. And actually, I was chatting with like Nicky Omen at one point online, because when weed got legal the day of, like he did this like little bit where it's like, oh yeah, I got an email from the upper people saying don't smoke a big fatty, and why wouldn't I want to promote and support blah blah blah, kind of doing like those cheeky thing. And I'm like, and I took a little stab, and he thought I was taking a stab at him. I'm like, no, I was taking a stab at managers who are holding back radio DJs from really letting their personality go.
Think of it back in the day, like some of those guys would make $300,000, $500,000 a year because they had personality, and people tuned in every day to listen to them. And so then the advertisers came in to support it, right? Because they're drawing a huge audience. And yeah, you're right. We don't have that in Canada. Everyone's very polite and everything. I like to listen to. I have Sirius XM in the truck.
Yeah.
So I listen to Ozzy's Boneyard, and then another one, Octane. And they're metal stuff. I'm a metal guy. But their hosts have energy and person. There's a guy named Grant Random, who he's hilarious. He's not appropriate. He would never work in Canada. But he's fantastic to listen to.
See, with Sirius, though, since it's like not in the radio waves, they don't have to subscribe to the CRTC in Canada or the FCC down in the States, right?
Right. It's all subscription based by the people who are paying to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
So you can do say whatever you want.
Totally.
But that makes it more interesting, and that's one thing like that Sean and I try to do on our shows. Like I'm very polite on NL, and there was a lot of rules on the X about things you could and couldn't say, but it was very freeing to step back into a podcast where you can just say whatever you want and use whatever language just to deliver your message. But you don't want to just be vulgar to be vulgar. You want to be entertaining.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think there's that line. You want to be dynamic and fun, but not just do it just to be a jerk about things, right?
Totally. People are going to get turned off if you're just trying to be as vulgar as vulgar
Or shock
can be.
them. You're just trying to shock people.
Shock
No
value.
one likes
like,
that. Like,
No,
there's odd people, but not enough, I think, to justify doing it.
No, and if that's not going to be a sustainable model in audience growth.
No, you're very limited, right? Like it sort of closes you down more than it opens you up.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been interesting with my audience, right? Like since I decided to go hyper local, because A, that's what interests me, and B, it was very much a way of proving to local media like this is A, needs to be taken seriously, and B, I'm going to be a busy father. I don't have time to read a newspaper. I'm never paying for cable.
Nope, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And I can't tune in to radio and your bloody radio app snippets or whatever be. I change. I go to another app and it stops playing. Like
That's right.
It's horrible, right? Like take this seriously. This will work, right? But no one wanted to. So I decided, I'm just going to do it. And so in my audience development, it's been very interesting, because people like you can actually reach out to me and then meet with me.
Well, and it works. Like I like how you've created that community on Facebook too, right? The group, because people need. Like, I worked in newspapers. I kind of understand. Like there's this need for a connection, but nowadays, no one's reading the paper. Right? They're going online, and so. But
they are.
They are, but they're not. And then also there's stuff that gets missed because you're just not paying attention. So if there's a place you can go where you know it's there, and people can connect, and I think that's a brilliant thing to do. Right? It perpetuates that way.
Keep talking. I'm going to grab a newspaper.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure if you saw this yet.
All right.
And we're going to chat about it.
Bring it up.
Keep talking.
Well, yeah. So I think people are really missing that there's this audio component, and then there also needs to be this sort of social media component that goes along with it. And I know that Nevin's trying that with his group. community, and we're doing that at our site too.
So we're going to
right.
look at the front page.
Which is an ad.
Yeah, it's actually a faux front page.
Yeah, it's a Black Friday ad, which is horrible.
So if you open up to the actual proper front page, see, they started doing that after I left Camos this week, the first time. Did you see
horrible.
that this sex dolls are coming to town?
I did, which, speaking of that Grant Random guy I mentioned, he did a story on this about a month ago on Octane about you can now go to, like, there's like sex doll whorehouses, for lack of a better word, where you can go and bang a doll.
I find this hilarious because they didn't want to just test the market with, like, 1 or 2 dolls.
Yeah.
They bought 7.
That's just crazy. Who's going to want to use a used doll? That's the question. I don't care how much you wash it, man. I don't want to involve myself with something like that.
Apparently Vancouver's, like, sold out.
Unreal.
Like, all the time. And
unreal.
I think, if you know a John who uses this service, I want to meet with them. They can stay anonymous. But apparently, as per Kristen Dickinson, it feels like a real vagina, which really? I want to know how Kristen knows this.
That's right. I'd be curious, too.
Like that is clearly not a primary source of information. And second of all, I have 2 other questions.
Okay.
Is it cheating?
Oh, if it's a doll.
And is it gay if you try Zach? Because they have a male one.
Really good question. And that says something, I guess, about the world we're living in, Nevin, because I'm not really sure. I mean, let's face it. Married couples don't always just get it off with each other. They do it on their own. So does that consider cheating when you... I don't think so. So does a doll count as a partner, or is it just another instrument upon which you pleasure yourself?
I don't know. Like...
That whole Zach question, I don't even know if I want to go there. Like
that whole Zach question, like, maybe that's me just trying to be vulgar for vulgar's sake.
But no, but it's because it's not a real Zach, but it's a fake Zach.
It's just what PVE or whatever they told me
they've made it out of. That's funny.
But they didn't spring for the dolls that can stand up by themselves. So you can have that real date rape experience if that's your thing. Which
you knocked it
I
out
hope
with
that's
some
not your
roofie,
thing.
and you just go ahead and do that. Yeah, that's awesome. Not awesome.
We're at Redbeard. It's after 8, so there's no children around.
No, there's no children. I'm looking. No, there's not. We're okay.
And Mitch, if you're listening and you don't want me back, I totally understand. I will take my $2.75 plus 15% tip. I give you 5 times a week elsewhere.
I think he'll be okay with it. He was a big supporter of our show on the X. We were never always appropriate on the X.
No,
so.
he was always awesome. Like I think he was like number 9, cameo number 9 or something. Like. Yep. Back when I was still keeping it like 15 minutes or whatever, because I had this like weird notion that that's all I really wanted to A, spend time with, and B, the idea of if I could capture someone during that drive in Kamloops, right, that had huge value. But then it's like, why am I pressing pause when there's not like a set amount of time that I can go?
Well, the one thing with podcasts that I've learned over the years, people like it shorter. Right? But you don't want to just limit yourself. Like, if you're having a good conversation, why stop at 12? Like, we usually try to keep our interviews we do on the show at about 12.
Yeah.
Because I think after that, people get bored. And we really learned that long chunks of just talk can become, you just sort of start to tune out. So we'd always try to break it up. But, I mean, if you're having a good conversation, you're at 12 minutes, don't stop.
Totally.
Like, go to 20, whatever it takes, right?
Like I've got, 70-plus podcasts in, like, under a year out. It's like...
That's prolific, man. That's really good.
I've been hustling like a motherfucker. But, like...
Oh, I'm allowed to swear?
Oh, yeah.
Fuck. Okay, good.
Dude,
I've been really, really polite.
I don't like... I just changed, like, a setting to say, like, this podcast explicit, but I never actually click the explicit box when I upload.
Okay, yeah.
Because I don't believe I'm explicit. I believe I'm just myself.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody, we have a son who's 7. We'll swear at home because we've told him there's adult words and kids words. You can't, like, censor that out. You're going to hear it somewhere. Right?
I take it next step further. It's like it's what's the purpose of the words, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're calling someone a motherfucker in a derogatory sense, that's very different than like, you motherfucker.
You motherfucker. Yeah.
Right? But that's not even a word that I really use. It's more like fuck, that sucks. It's more a descriptive of like how I'm feeling versus
it's
like
an exclamation mark at the end of a sentence. It's But no, I hear you.
It's Yeah, but anyways, to go back to I have 60, 70 podcasts out. Like, realistically, I'd go listen to them all and start breaking them down to 5-minute chunks and then releasing mini episodes.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know if that bastardized my current audience or if that helps develop new listeners in the shorter form, right?
I think that's something I always struggled with too, right? When we did the hour show, I almost thought we could break it into like 5 10-minute chunks. Because we'd have music, so you take the music out, you've got about 50 minutes, 45 minutes. But then I think you're right. Like, there's people who want to hear it in its entirety. You know what I mean? Because then you get the full flow. Like, a good show has a flow to it, right? And I think if you're breaking it up, you're killing that flow, because no one has, like, they might come into like the one segment that aired after another, and you've got a lot of energy. And sometimes I think people feel they've missed something. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just coming off of a joke or something like that, or something that really got you pumped up. So I think if you can just let it run, I think that plays way better. And I mean, it comes down to patience to grow an audience. Like, I mean, you were talking about the numbers we have now. That was nothing not even close when we started.
Oh yeah, so many people didn't even understand what a podcast was, let alone had an iPod to listen to them.
Well, that's right. Or had the phone. The phones, even since we've been doing it, have changed. Do you know what I mean? Like, and listening habits have changed, and social media's changed. Like I think now we're like, it'll grow. The big. Sean always says this, and it took me a while to get it, because it's like the old quote from Field of Dreams: "If you build it, they will come." If you build it, you're good. Word of mouth will spread. People will listen. You bring different. Every time you interview someone, they're going to say, "Hey, I was on Nevin's show." Yeah. You got to listen to it, and people will listen to it, right? And that's because I'm going to post this up on my page and in the basement and stuff like that, and it grows an audience.
Totally, right? I'm astounded at the number of people though that I meet with who I feel like I give them something of value, and then I get no posts out of it. Like,
and to me, that's bullshit. I mean, if you're taking the time to sit and talk to someone, the least they can do is return the favor and post it to their site.
Especially
right?
at least for their website.
Yeah.
Content, because originally my idea is, like I said earlier when we were off air, I want to go dark on all social media and just see a great experiment, how far this can perpetuate.
Yep.
Right? Just from the idea of someone posting whenever we host and seeing what their influence or clout is, which is the most interesting part of it all. Is actually my most listened to podcast is Mike Erickson, Beat Mick.
Okay, I know Mike. Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah.
And when I invited him to chat, his wife was like, "Why you? You're nobody." Right? And I'm like, no, he's interesting.
Oh yeah, he's a hell of a drummer. He's one of the best drummers I think in the province.
It's the most listened to podcast I have there, right? And why? Because people relate to him, because he's a father who's struggling to make money to support his family as an entrepreneur. He's now gone back to a job. That's
a story. That's a story everyone can relate to, right?
Totally.
And I think that I think is key. Actually, it's funny because Mike was in a band called the Stars of Fiction. Sean was the singer in the Stars of Fiction, so I know him that way. But no, people want to hear. They want to hear stories they can relate to that are interesting. There's a whole celebrity thing where people want to hear what the big celebrities are up to. I've interviewed, even as a journalist and then doing this show, hundreds of people. One of the most interesting is we interviewed Ernie Hudson. He was in the original Ghostbusters. He was the Black Ghostbuster.
Got it.
But he was fascinating because he didn't have an ego. He didn't think he was hot shit. He didn't go to all the big Hollywood parties because he was a single dad raising 2 kids during the whole course of his career.
Yeah.
He was just a working dude, man, and that came across the interview. He was fascinating because he wasn't up on the whole celebrity star hype. He was just a guy doing a job, and that's how he approached it. That's probably why he was so good at it, I think, and he kind of brought that natural everyman quality to the role.
Yeah, one of the things, I chatted with someone, what's his name? Actually, I'm not going to say his name. But he was very pivotal in my early podcasting days in supporting me in a way that I couldn't do for myself.
Yeah.
And without his help, I would have lost what little steam I had to get it going.
Yeah.
So he was very important. But we were connected a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "So, Nevin, have you run out of people to interview yet in Kamloops?" And I'm like, No, not at all. And just today, I met one of the key guys who created Quake.
Oh, no way.
He lives in Kamloops.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me this at all. It was someone else who told me after that he was a lead developer and all this stuff, and that if you look him up online, there's people still looking for him.
Really?
Being like, oh, he's dead. Oh, I think he lives here. Oh, I think I found, like they want to know where this guy is, and he's just no. I just want to.
I'm quiet.
I'm quiet, and I live in Kamloops. So if you're a Quake fan, I'm sorry for ruining the.
That's awesome, though. But I mean, Kamloops has got a population of what, 90,000?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that?
Driving towards the 100 mark at some point.
That's, as far as I'm concerned, almost 100,000 stories that can be told, right? And
No,
more people come all the time.
That's 100,000 stories if I only interview everyone once.
That's right. You could come back in 2 years and you have a different story from that same person, right?
Exactly, right?
It never stops.
And that's the thing, too. It's like, I feel like I owe Ted Morton, Matty Lowe, and Zach Abney a do-over. They were the first 3 interviews I did, which they always say you should throw out your first 5 interviews. Yeah. Well, the first 3, like the first 2 I did over Skype, actually.
Yeah.
To keep the costs low, right? Because, I and then by Zach Abney, I'm like, no, I just need to buy a digital recorder.
They just go out and do it and just get it done.
do it in person because, A, that's what the project's about, is meeting people in Kamloops. And B, I can't mess with the Skype settings, and the quality is just too much work.
Yeah, we do a lot of our stuff through Skype because it's people who aren't in town, right? We're people in LA, Vancouver, out east. So we do it through Skype, and it took tons of work so we could get it dialed in just perfectly. We now have like our Skype settings on the computer that we go in and you push all the buttons so that it sounds like they're in the same room with you.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Phone interviews are the worst. Absolutely, because the quality is
the mini
not
Maxis
there.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I'm going to invest in next month. Rode's coming out with this really nice portable deck that lets you plug a phone in for phone interviews, 4 XLR inputs for mic, and I don't need a laptop, but it's going to be like $800 or whatever it be. So I'm going to invest in that so I can do the phone interviews, because I'm also limiting myself of the stories that I'm only meeting with people. Well, what about stories of people who maybe are wanting to come to Kamloops, where there could be a bonus feature, right, outside of the minimum 4 that I do on Kamloops people, right? I'm at this point where it's figure out how do I grow the podcast so it's not just meeting Kamloops people, right? There has to be some other things. I do have to mix in the celebrity into it if I want to take it to the next level.
Yeah,
but also, I don't have just a local audience. It's an international audience.
Well, and that's something, and we had that on the X, because it's with a lot of radio stations, actually. They think local, right? And I get that. They're a local station, most of the listeners here, but with the internet, we did a contest in our second year at the X, which was win a chat with a Scream Queen. We interviewed a Scream Queen named Brooke Lewis, who became a really good friend of ours.
What's a Scream Queen?
They're the horror movie star. Like Jamie Lee Curtis was one of the first
Got it.
Scream Queens, right? The survivor girl who lives through the whole thing. So we interviewed her, and then we did a contest, win a chat with a Scream Queen. It wasn't a Kamloops person who won. It was someone from New York who was listening to the X, which is a little campus radio station in Kamloops. And that really showed some of the people at the X, holy shit, this isn't something that's just here. This is... anyone in the world can listen. Totally. So why... you don't want to just... and I think, what you're doing, Nevin, is good, because people might say, I'm not in Kamloops, I don't even know where Kamloops is, but it's stories about people. So that's what'll draw an audience
in. It's
a
universal...
Right? It's a universul situation. We're all in the same condition together. It's a global village. But I think anytime you just say, no, I just want a Kamloops audience, or a local audience, you're right, you're limiting yourself. So anything you can think of, think of people who maybe have made a movie here.
Yeah.
Right? Or Leah Cairns is someone that we've interviewed before. We're interviewing her again. She was one of our first 5. She's a cat. She grew up across the street from me, but she's been in Battlestar Galactica, Interstellar. She's on a show called Travelers. She's doing it in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring her back, because it's been also 8 years later, right? But she's a Kamloops person. You know what I mean? You could talk to her. She grew up here.
Totally.
There's a connection,
See,
right?
that's the thing where it's I can have Cameo in person. I want to do Kamloops businesses where they can have buy-ins, where they can pay and give GCs away, right? And then there could be what is the Kamloops connection that's bigger or broader, right? Or I start another show or whatever it be, right? It's but it still goes back to this. I have this self-limiter in my head of I can't make $85,000 talking about peanut butter, right? Like
No, it's tricky.
It's totally tricky, right?
Yeah.
I'm now making $12 a month.
That's not bad. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, no, but I
nothing.
do have a sponsorship money in the mail, so that's
all. But the fact that you've got that is huge.
Yeah,
it's a start, right? You start
totally.
somewhere.
Totally.
And you build on it. That's something I want to talk to you about at some point off air, is just doing that, because that's sort of the point we're getting to. And you know how you bring, like, you listen to Joe Rogan, the first 20 minutes of his show is him, like, just all the people that have sponsored him just thanking and talking, and that's becoming huge, which I think that's awesome, that's how people are going. But as a listener, don't want to listen to 20 minutes of...
Joe Rogan takes it too far.
He does. And there's another one, Drinkin' Bros, that I listen to because it's really interested. It's a great cast. It's more of a football sports show, but they interviewed an actor named Clayne Crawford, who's in the Lethal Weapon TV series after he was fired. So that was interesting. But, I mean, the same thing, man. Jesus, it was like 15 minutes of support this and do our plug, and you know what I mean? And then to get to the nitty-gritty of what you want to listen, you just bleep. Do people, like, what have you found? Can you track if people listen in their entirety or just like the portions of your show?
To be honest, I don't even look at the numbers as much as people think I do, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm on so many different platforms trying to promote it and stuff. I'd rather just make another piece of content than double check the numbers.
What people are doing and how much the listenership is. And
exactly, right? Because like the way I'm monetizing to start off with is I'm going to help local businesses with, you know, creating content through it, right? Through the camcorder, through, you know, some audio commentary. You know, they could do a Facebook Live on their own thing if they want to not wait the whatever weeks it takes me to then put it out as per my schedule, right?
Yep.
So I just don't want to get into the numbers, because if you look at the numbers, right, like you're at 8 years.
Yeah.
And you want to talk to me about sponsorship. Well, I've been doing this 9 months.
Exactly.
I took a very different route than you, right? Like, it's not a fair metric, because my background was sales at the newspaper, and you were a journalist.
Well, yeah, I'm about creating the content, not the business side of things, right? And we started with more just trying to create a cool show and see where it would go. And now we're at a point where, okay, there's a bit of a business model that needs to come into play, right? And I'm learning lots every day, because we're like we fit into that movie site category.
Yeah.
And that whole market is changing too. It's good, you know what I mean? Like everything is just becoming such a different beast that now people want. They just want to listen, like we talked earlier, a picture, a video or something they can listen to.
Totally.
They don't want to sit and read. They don't want to spend too long. They just want to have it. Boom.
And the reality is, like, we could put all this effort into this, and I can invest, you know, a couple $100 on my equipment that we're sitting right now using.
Yeah.
And we could lose to some kid on an iPod.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's what we're, like, I put a photo of the camcorder up, and my buddy, who is the video guy up at Mike Wigley's, is like, oh, you want me to send you a potato? You know, using that old meme to make fun of the camcorder. It's like, well, that camcorder is putting out more content online in the last 3 days that I've had it than I've seen you post there, buddy.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter if it's a potato or if you have the highest level thing. I'm fucking doing it.
Well, and you're not.
And you're not.
That's right. And it comes down to just doing it, right? That we found is half the battle. Like, when we got started, the hardest part was getting started. But once you kind of go, and if you're enjoying it, it just kind of grows, right? And I mean, it can start to feel like work sometimes. You're just kind of like, oh, fuck, I just don't want to do this, get up and do this today. But I find once I sort of get that day going, it's a blast. Like, you know,
Totally.
there's been nights where we'll sit down and do our show. It's like, I don't want to do it. I'm tired.
I didn't want to meet with you tonight, actually.
I'm sure. And if you're sick, it's the same thing, right? But then as soon as you hit it, you push play and you get that mojo. We have our theme song that we play. We listen to that before we start all the time. And by the time that song's done, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the moment and you're just flying.
There's so many times where I'm like, I don't want to meet with this person, even though I did, and I do. It's just, I'm not feeling it. Like I'm just grinding it. Like, I'm getting texts from my wife. She's sick at home. The baby's crying. She needs a break. She's never had a break.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to build a business on top of that, and I get fired and quit my job and a whole bunch of
Oh, I know.
throwing that stuff away.
Yeah.
And I'm still grinding, and it's like, man, yeah, it does feel like work. But I'm at this point where I'm actually trying to, like, outsource a whole bunch of it.
Yeah.
Because of my contacts, and because Campbell's is so small, so many people are, like, you know, wanting to, you know, help me out and, like, do little things here and there. So,
which is awesome. You
totally
work with your contacts, right?
Absolutely. Like if I could get the way I envision it, I would put up my podcast, which will take me 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I do none of the other parts.
Which is huge. We do that because we have our site, and I finally got my buddy Mike, who does our tweeting. He started writing for it too, because I was writing articles every day.
Oh wow, that's
which
a grind.
Was huge grind. I mean, it was good, and I liked it and everything, but it's just like after a while, you're like, fuck. You know what I mean? Then doing a show, then doing any of the social media stuff and all that. And Sean does all the audio, which is a world I don't understand, and it's a huge part of it. But he gets it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big job too. So yeah, but if you love it, it just keeps you going. It
totally
just keeps you going and keeps you pushing,
it's like,
right?
Like I'm just hiring this high school kid, or just out of high school, I had on the podcast earlier, Adrian Falk.
Okay, yeah.
To like make me an Instagram edit for every Friday.
Nice.
So I'm just going to fire him off video and blindly post whatever he sends me.
Yeah.
And he's probably not going to listen to this, but like I'm hoping to at some point, outsource all of my social media to him.
Well, it's a big...
And hire him to do it because A, he doesn't know what he wants to do, and B, I know he would be good at it.
Yep.
Especially if I teach him that sort of stuff. So then I can then, sell his services.
Well, exactly, and focus on doing the thing that you like best, which
totally.
is doing the show portion
the
of it,
chatting.
right? And it's the same thing, and I mean, that's what we do. Like, I mean, keeping up with Facebook and Instagram and the Twitter and all that. I neglect Twitter now, but I don't like Twitter. I just kind of have an automatic when I put a post up, it just flops up on there.
I have that too, yeah.
I just don't like it, and I don't like being on it that much. And I find that even with social media, like, because that's the part, like we talked about maybe when we were off air, about you kind of got to set a time when you're done for the day. That's the part that can creep in as people comment on something. You're trying to, like, my wife and I are trying to sit and watch something, and the phone goes blink, blink, and people are asking you a question, or they want to, you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't want to deal with that part at that point. But if you neglect that, it could piss someone off, and they're not going to listen.
Yeah, it's like I told my wife this, like, it's a 5-minute response time, because when I was selling cars online for dealerintelligence.ca as a sales manager, if you respond to someone in 5 minutes, your likelihood of selling that car is exponential, right?
Huge. It's huge.
And that's how these social media apps are all gamed too, right? Like how quick you respond and blah, 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 right? Like Gary Vee has his 60-second club, right?
Yeah.
Instagram is just getting rid of auto likes and people who use all these third-party apps to make fake likes or whatever.
Oh God, I know.
It's because what they'll do is they'll like post something and then they'll buy themselves 1,000 fake likes in the first 30 seconds, and then that will boost them, and then they'll remove it.
Right.
So that way
then
it
they've got
trends.
1,000 likes, and then
then it disappears, right?
Yeah.
So like this world of speed and connectivity, right? It's really difficult, and we're just giving value away to people. We're just giving our information away.
Well, and
sell me stuff, sell me stuff, sell me stuff. Not that I dislike ads. I sell ads in the past and currently, but they need to be non-intrusive.
That's right.
Which goes back to the Joe Rogan thing.
Well, yeah, it's intrusive, right? And I like Joe Rogan, and I like his shows and his guests, but I'm jumping over that stuff. So are those that ad getting to someone? How many people just go, nah, and they go 20 minutes in and start listening to the show?
Totally.
And we've never done that on our show because we just want to go right into the show and just give people what they want, right?
Which is what I like when people let you have the freedom with an ad read. So like I like the H3H3 podcast for my internet, kind of nerd stuff.
Yeah.
And they have their ad read, but they get to ad lib it as kind of comedians, right? And that ad lib part makes it comedy, makes it, at this point, content and interesting, right?
Well, exactly. And if it can be, no one will care if it's interesting or funny or part of the show, right? And I think that's one thing we always try to do is no matter what we're talking about or how serious, we try to make it funny.
Yeah.
And we've even gone off topic on a non-movie related stuff. We'll start talking about politics now and things like that, but we still try to always tie it back into a film reference somehow because we think that makes it more interesting than just go riffing on what an a-hole Trump is again. You know what I mean? And I think the key to any success, like doing what we do, is just to be entertaining.
Yeah, and
be interesting.
There's so much money in the entertainment industry. It comes back to my limiter of the idea of abundance, right? And it's a huge limiter in my head that I'm fighting with, right? And I can see my wife struggle with it too. The idea of abundance that things will come together. The law of attraction is real tenfold.
Oh yeah.
People don't want to. The people who don't believe in it are the people who aren't out there hustling for their dreams in the first place.
That's right. That's right.
But I think Kamloops is a great place to allow it, right? You know, Sean's a musician, like you said.
Yep.
And he's operating here out of this, you know, small little cozy town.
Scored a whole movie.
So
Down in his basement. You know what I mean? Like there's like you say, there's the guy from Quake is here. I learned today that 2 people who earn a living playing video games on Twitch live in Kamloops.
Really?
Yeah, they're making both. It's a husband and wife. That's what they do for a living.
I'd
they
love
got a nice new
to
home.
connect with them at some point.
I will try to track them down for you because I would also like to talk to them because that's fascinating that you
totally
that you can make a living doing that, which always blows my mind, and B, they're in Kamloops doing it.
Yeah, like I met someone who made like $250. You know, I don't know if she meant since July or a month on Twitch or whatever it be, right? And it, you know, whenever I think of like a Twitch girl, if you're not familiar with Twitch is the live streaming platform, It started as Justin.tv, but that's a big story.
Yeah, it is, but it's huge now. Like it's
huge.
massive.
But she's not a Twitch girl in the sense like she's not your stereotypical hot blonde.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's very much average people.
Just playing games
average,
or whatever.
No, just doing lifestyle.
Yeah,
like she's not even gaming that much.
Well, she isn't. She's just doing her like kind of like okay, yeah,
like
just
like
people that
pumpkin
record their
carving
life.
and like a little bit of gaming and just being with her boyfriend and like, you know, just being an average person. And that's where I've excelled in the sense where like media in town is so standoffish to people actually like reaching out and getting a response back, even if it's a thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tip, or hey, we appreciate that. We're not going to do a story, right? Like,
yeah, but thanks for at least being interested enough. Yeah,
yeah, right. Like when I was at the newspaper, people were coming directly to me, and then I was firing it off to the journalists, and the journalists were getting annoyed with me. They're like, "Why are they going through you? You know, why are you just sending off to your friends and all this stuff?" I'm like, no, it's because I get back to people.
Well, yeah, and that's people want it. And I did that job for 10 years. I know that you can get burned out talking to people and become standoffish, but you still got to answer the fucking phone and take the tip.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, you just have to. I think there can be an arrogance in that business, right? Like, especially if you've done it a while and you think you know what you're doing and what's newsy and what's not, and I think you can easily dismiss without even really hearing it.
Totally.
The story without thinking maybe it is really worthwhile.
Which it makes me laugh because like I had control of the Kamloops This Week Facebook page for a week until I told them to take it away from me.
Yeah.
And that happened right when they had the Bachelor fire.
Okay.
And so I found this like video of because I have like so many random people I've never met on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
I found this random lady who had the best shot of the fire in Batch, and I just reshared it. Didn't add any context.
Yeah,
I reshared it as Kamloops This Week, and that's the one that went viral, or mini viral, 34,000 views or whatever. And she had 14 views when I saw it.
That's awesome.
I got in trouble because I'm not a journalist. I'm like, no, I'm just resharing, some document stuff. And literally, that gives clout.
Yes. Which is
to the news organization,
which is important.
Which I'm selling.
That's right.
Right, I'm selling your guys' success, not my success.
Yeah.
Your guys' success. So do your fucking job.
That's right. Go get a good picture. If you guys have got a good picture of that fire, you would have used it, right? But no, some other lady did, so you just used that.
Yeah.
And that's the world we're living in. And that's where audiences will go if you're not giving them what they want. You know what I mean? Or you aren't interesting. Like you've got to
Because you can unfollow, you can unsubscribe, you can mute.
It is effortless. You push a button, and that's it.
And that's but I also understand like, hey, there's so many stories they can't cover them all.
Well, especially with what's happening to modern media in terms of like the people who are able to generate is shameful. Like the amount of cuts to staff, reporters, all that. It's horrible.
Was it Post Media? No, Metro Star just let like a whole department go except one person got a promotion. Just like yesterday or today.
That's ridiculous. And it's been happening for 10 years, and it happened at the Daily News where I worked, right? Like, I mean, there they shut the whole paper. Not because it was not making money, it just wasn't making enough.
Yeah. But the Daily News, from what I understand, also like bent over for a lot of advertisers for so long.
I was never on that side, but I can see it. You know what I mean?
Like it's challenging in the newspaper industry because, especially in a town like Kamloops, right, you have these really long-standing grandfathered relationships.
Well, institutions, right? Yeah, with their
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, when you have a rate card, you can't just get certain people on Rank Card,
No.
right? It's just this weird backdoor handshake, old boys town thing, right?
Because they all know each other and they've been doing it for 30 years, and
I hear it from so many different people. You know, Kamloops is cliquey. It's cliquey.
It is super cliquey,
and they do not like when you stick out.
No, and they don't like people to rock the boat, and they don't like people who are different. We had
which is why I'm no longer there.
It happens, right? And I mean, we even had, like, back in 2012, we did the first Dark Fest, which was with the Kamloops Film Society. So we brought a horror festival to it, which is now going on in another local podcast, Drunk in the Graveyard, has taken over.
Robin, I've been texting with her,
which is great. I think they're going to do awesome. But the society at the time just didn't vibe with who we were. Right? They just we wanted to be in the same. Like, now they do Dark Fest in the same theater. You know what I mean? Like, they do it in the Paramount and the small one and all that. We had to be off-site somewhere else because society members didn't want to have a horror movie next to their pretentious art movie. And it was just like, we didn't come back for the second year because I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, we don't feel welcome.
Yeah.
Right now, thank God that's changed. I know Robin and the crew is going to do awesome, which is great. But that just shows, right? There's a different mindset. But now there's a younger group of people running the film society.
Yeah, there's
open-minded, right?
There's people who are leading the charge, and like you know who they are, and they stand out. But there's also all these other people who aren't part of even that circle, right? Because there's like the old boys circle, and then there's like the younger generation that is currently playing in that circle, right? And they get that clout and that influence and stuff. But then there's all these like people who are outside of it completely, right?
Yeah.
Who don't want to play in it, and I'll put myself there, right?
And that's where we like to be too. We're the same way. We'd rather do our own thing. We'd rather, instead of be in a box, we'd rather be a box.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And do whatever the fuck we want.
And the beauty is, though, like, Kamloops is so small that when you rock the boat, you hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
So it just validates that you're doing something right because people are talking.
That's right.
And you know, I've been listening to a podcast by Canadian journalist Ryan Calarabi. It's called Cut the Crap podcast.
Okay, yeah.
So he just like reads like a business book and then, you know, paraphrases it for you. And fuck, I just blanked hard. Man, it's been like 50 minutes and like it blew by. Like my wife's
Did it really? 50 minutes? Holy shit.
My wife's gonna be like asking me like, cause like we're recording this after 8, and so my wife usually puts the baby down, and when I got here, she was saying the baby just woke up and that started screaming and crying. And
I remember those days very well, my friend.
she sleeps through the night, though.
That's good. That's important. Yeah. Knock on wood. That's important, man.
So
when that happens, it becomes a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Man, you were right that was going to be an interesting conversation. And that goes back to my point of you got to talk to people who want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Which is where I think the idea of like going dark online would be very interesting, because then people have to network to try and connect with me.
Well, exactly. And I mean, if you've got, all you really need is your own site to launch your show from. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's really all you need.
Well, I've automated a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? And I can do a lot of things from just Instagram, which goes to Twitter, which can go to like
boom, 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 boom,
boom, boom, boom, boom, boom, right? But better yet, like my phone number. You know what's crazy? I have not received a single text or phone call off of one of my business Instagrams.
Really?
Like, it's at the point where people are like more comfortable DMing than like actually going like, I do want to get on. I will give a call. Like,
people. It's like the messenger, right? People rather messenger or DM you on Instagram. I'm old school because I'm 46, so I'd rather call or text or something like that.
But like,
or
if you really want to get on, and I know some people do, and I think it's A, fun to slow them down, and B, it's got to be right time and place. But like, pick up the phone and call and straight up ask me. Yeah. Like, it's going to be so much harder for me to say no to you face to face.
Well, if you're there, right, like, hey, Nevin, let's talk right now. Like, come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You say, okay, fine, let's do it.
Like I'm not hiding my phone number. Like,
no.
It's live on my LinkedIn. Like, I'm not changing my number. Why would I do that?
No,
like,
or why have a business phone that you turn off and throw away once in a while, right?
Totally.
Like, no.
But people are so scared of actual real communication. Like, and I'll put myself in that, but like, business happens on the phone.
Yep.
And I had a conversation with someone the other day, and my wife was just like, Nevin, you're so aggressive. I'm like, it's business.
Yeah, it's all business. That's right.
It's business. Like, if the person I'm talking to can't deal with that, I'm not getting into bed with them.
Well, no. Like, and people got to understand too. Like, my dad was in business for years, and he was even in business with his brothers. But he would say, "There's business and there's not business." And you can tell someone like in business to fuck off, and then as soon as the business is over, you can go have a beer with them.
Absolutely,
it shouldn't matter because business that's it. It's just the business part of it, and you leave that behind you when you're done.
Absolutely, and I have that relationship with Aaron at the Mattress King, right?
Yep.
Like, he's like my mentor. He's like my big bro. But if he says something, it's law.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can tell me to fuck off. Never has.
Yeah,
he's not
but
that
he
kind
could.
of guy. He has that he has that opportunity to.
Yeah.
But then we're friends.
Yeah.
And he buys me lunch on Saturdays, right? Like,
yeah.
It's, Kamloops is still operates on some old business principles, which I really appreciate. The handshake deal,
yeah.
not needing a contract. Someone was after me yesterday, actually, about you need to get a contract and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, either they want to do business with me or they don't.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Like,
yes or no.
Yes or no.
Yeah.
Right? They either want their whole podcast to go live or they don't. They either want to work with me or I will say next and find the next person who will work with me.
Right.
And I'm going to be successful however I dictate success at that point.
Exactly.
Anyways. But let's flip it back to you because we've been talking about me a lot. What's next for We Came From the Basement beyond just live streaming? Like you said you want to talk to me off air. You can leave that part off air, but like, where do you envision it in this new golden age of digital media?
And that's the key, right? Like, we figure we want to still keep like the vibe, like what we do it, pretty fresh, pretty low key. We want to go definitely into like more video focus, and we're thinking of taking things like right now we have our sites, we write a review. But I think I'm going to do more like short audio reviews, and then also do a short video review component to it. So maybe it's only a 2-minute video or audio clip, but it's like I just went and saw Halloween, and it was like, wow, you know what I mean? And then bang, done, and put it out there.
Yeah.
And movie news is becoming, I mean, there's so many movie news sites, you can find that out anywhere you want. So focus less on that and do more just original content.
Totally.
Like, I put an editorial up the other day about how Warner Brothers and Universal want to shorten that window from theater to home. It's already only 3 months. They want to make it shorter. So instead of writing about it, I'll just sit and talk.
Yeah.
And just do it that way. So I think we're going to go more into that kind of stuff so that someone can just, what are they saying? Boom, put it on while they're driving to work or on the bus or something like that.
Well, to go off of that, like what I've been doing, right, is structuring my life so that I can produce as much content sustainably as possible, right?
Yep.
With the pillar being the podcast.
Yeah.
But like, I use like my phone dash holder, and I just record a video while I drive from home.
I've seen those. Or the one
to
where
pick
you're
up
ironing?
coffee, or when I'm ironing.
Yeah.
Like how do you fit that into your life or whatever be so that it doesn't slow you down, right?
Yep.
So the Instagram, the IGTV videos, right, can also get pushed to Facebook.
Yeah.
But it just goes through IGTV, right? And when
How do you like that? I haven't played with that yet, IGTV.
I do not watch any IGTV.
Yeah.
It comes up in hashtags, though.
Okay.
So a few people have found it that way. But I think it's more like gambling on 3 to 5 years from now, where 9:16 video is like standard because like Snapchat has standardized that style of video,
That's right.
Even YouTube now conforms to that style of video if you do it, right? So I think like if you do off the cuff stuff, why not just do it that way? Because you're going to be pushing it to Facebook anyways, which is where people are going to be watching your stuff.
That's right. And I mean, we were even surprised, like our first Facebook video. It was the first one. It was unrehearsed. We didn't plan it. We didn't let anyone know. It got like more than 200 listeners. We were pretty happy with that. So yeah, come out of the movie. Boom, put the phone, shoot the video of, oh my God, I just was it. You know what I mean? And just start doing that and putting it out there really quick.
I think the problem I have with when you record your podcast, don't do that live. Because I think what I have a lot of trouble with, like, someone's watching you or could be commenting, you see that flash, you get that, and you want to look and you break character.
We ignored that. We just ignore that. We did the first time. We're going to try it again. And then at the end, we sort of, oh, there's a comment, and we sort of make a reference to it.
See, that's where I would take it to the next step where, like, see, with your phone, it's easy to go live, whatever it be, but if you have a camcorder that lets you record a longer term,
Yep.
right? And then after you record it, and then you have, say Thursday at 7 o'clock, you launch it then,
Yeah.
right? And when you premiere it on Facebook, it becomes like a live. And when people comment, you can comment back.
And just sit and type and go
And
along. Yeah.
and then now you're rewatching yourself, you're critiquing yourself on video, and you're doing live engagement with your audience.
That's a good idea.
And that's the thing, like Lewis Howes has like a Facebook watch TV show.
Yeah.
He has a TV show on Facebook. And like he's like, hey, if you live in Arkansas, give a thumbs up, like that sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
Watch it, get some ideas. I think you can do it better if you do pre-recorded, and then you yourself actually are engaging with them
When it's up.
Because if you think about it this way, like when it goes back to that idea of 5-minute response time.
Yeah.
Right? A, it's going to help the algorithm, and B, right, you're going to blow someone's mind that
Holy shit, they're talking to me.
holy shit, they're talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Now you of your 3,100 or so Facebook likes or whatever it be, right, which is huge.
Yeah.
Right? And you actually talk and stuff, right? Now you're accessing their networks as well.
Yes.
So they bring an average of 300 to 400 friends each, right?
Exactly.
And if you get 200 live, right? What's 200 times, say, 3 friends? That's 600, right? Like, and then in that first hour of your thing going live, you now have a baseline of how many views you can get in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then the next time when you do it, right? How do you get more?
More.
And then you can also, while you are commenting stuff, you can share it into your nerd groups, your Facebook
absolutely.
groups, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And then they can join live too, right? Now you're accessing those groups, right? Like it's, you got to think like a network marketer.
Yeah, and that's a really good
Without
really
being a
good
network marketer, because I hate network marketing.
No, I know. Yeah.
I fought with a couple recently, and I think I won those battles.
That's good.
I think I did.
That's good when you can win it. There's enough fights out there.
Yeah. No, I don't start fights that I can't finish.
No, I never do. My dad always said that. He'd always say, I never. And he sued 35 people in his life, and he won all 35 times.
Jesus Christ.
He knew when to pick a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I picked that up from him. So there's lots of battles you just go, fuck this, it's not worth it right now. But when there's one when you know it,
but then there's
back.
but also like, if I believe in something, I'm going to fight.
Absolutely.
Even if I lose, I would rather eat my words than not pick that fight.
Well, never sell your values short.
Totally.
Right? Never sell your values short. That's the key.
Which I've had a lot of people commend me recently on, like, we appreciate that you are just doubling down on audio and podcasting, because they wanted to see me do social media management and stuff. And it's like, not really wanting to do that, but if Adrian Falk wants to do that as like my crony,
yeah,
he can do that, right? Under my guidance of sorts, right? But this digital world, as a journalist, what are you doing now, out of curiosity?
Well, I've been actually with Work BC the last
BC.
few years. So I've been helping people with disabilities and barriers find work.
Oh, nice.
It's been good. It's not my thing, but it's good work, and it's helping people, which is kind of why I went into journalism. But I mean, this is where my heart is. This is the kind of thing that I want to work into more full-time and see where that goes through the radio and stuff like that. But
do you think a lot of media are left-leaning because journalists have to interact with so many people that they just get attached to people and have a passion for people?
I think that's part of it. And I know the one thing that I really notice, whatever the government is of the day, like journalists are really, your job is to be counterpoint to whatever the popular opinion is or whatever the government is. So you question that. So if it's a highly conservative government, you're going to lean, as a journalist, you should lean more liberal. If it's a liberal government, you should kind of lean more conservative, more just as a devil's advocate kind of role. I mean, that's why it's called the fifth estate. But they're also holding everyone accountable.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays, media's just become liberal. You're right. It's just become liberal, I think, because it's a highly sensitive, very politically correct world that we're living in right now. No one likes to offend anybody, right? So, and if you're media and you are relying on advertising dollars, guess what?
Totally.
You got to play that role.
Which, the whole not offending people. Like, people don't realize I'm more right than I come off. They think I'm going to be a super left-leaning liberal, but also, like, I work hard for my dollar, and, you know, I want to keep some of it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And so when the BC government came out with this whole sex change operation thing, right?
Yeah.
Someone made a comment about, you know, their tax dollars, whatever, and you know, left-leaning person's like, why does it matter? It shouldn't matter. I'm like, no, where my dollars go matters.
It does.
And a lot of people had issue with that. And I was like, what is going on? And that was an argument I ended up winning because someone was like, oh, it saves lives. I'm like, how so? And, you know, the idea is, of course, you know, mental health. You take care of people's mental health. And I'm very passionate about mental health because I have depression and blah, blah, blah. And I forgot to take my pill today. But the actual, like, empirical truth, like a report shows that getting a sex change does not decrease,
no,
you know, suicides. Like, I'm sorry, your truths are wrong, and I'm gonna. Luckily, I wasn't going to have to show that to you, but
no, but it's true. No, and I've worked with people who've had that operation, and I mean, it's great, but it can create a whole bunch of other lines of problems that will still play with their mental health issues, right?
It's like a Band-Aid. Like, you're not solving the thing. You always think you're going to solve a thing,
but you don't. You never do. You got to get to the heart of what's wrong inside.
Yeah,
really is what the big issue is. And I don't know. I think there's just certain places where, as a government, that shouldn't tread.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's other things that are more focus on your infrastructure, focus on your bigger world problem. You know what I mean? Like government. Anyways. That's a whole topic we
totally.
can delve into.
Totally.
But no, there's certain ways that the money should be spent, in certain ways I think it's a different thing. It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
Right? So you can give maybe grants and supports or something like that through medical. But should the government get in there? I don't think. I just stay out.
Yeah. And so it's interesting for me to see because, like, sometimes we'll see, like, you know, the really far right come out on, you know, some, like, happy thing like, you know, you can now be gender X.
Yeah.
No problem with that. Doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't affect my taxes. Like, how does this affect me at all? It doesn't, right? Like,
make things legal for everybody, or don't criticize people for who they are.
Yeah.
But just make it just an open, all lives matter kind of thing.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I believe in the whole all lives matter movement in itself, because that in itself is a retaliation of the Black Lives Matter, which,
absolutely.
Which I don't like, this whole bandwagoning thing of, like, oh, they get a soapbox. I need a bigger soapbox.
Well, and then you got all the splinter groups that want to have their soapbox, and because actually what it does is splinter us more as a society.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone should just kind of be allowed to hang out and get along, like that, which is cliche. But why? As soon as you create one group, then it becomes a political venue, then it becomes a money-making venue, and then you've got an agenda, and then you're against anyone who doesn't fit within that agenda, and then you're creating a problem. You're actually driving people apart instead of bringing people together.
Which, like, I've been listening to the National Post podcast because they had a really great one with Derek Pine story, the local TRU prof who I took a class with, and
he's
I
in the
support
paper
him.
today.
He's in the paper today.
Yep.
Everyone should check him out. But their tagline is like, yeah, your conservative voice, like like they're leaning on that conservative side of things, like you said, to counteract, I guess, the current liberal
trend. That's what it all comes down to. Like and it's always been that way, which is shitty, but it is right. We'll just take counterpoint to whatever's going on, but then there's a bunch of innocent people that get caught up in that crossfire when a big story like this happens, right?
Totally.
But then it's like, well, we're going to take this side of it. Looks like the CBC has an agenda right now that if it's First Nations, you're pro-First Nations. CBC. Doesn't matter what it is, but that's the agenda, and that's what they do.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think...
which, I mean, I have nothing against, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you should never, if you're media, you should not have an agenda.
No.
You look at both sides of the story and you're putting it together so that people can make up their own decisions. You shouldn't put that decision into it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I always say when people don't want to call me a journalist, I'm no, that is so inaccurate. If anything, I'm a documenter.
Documentarian, I'd
right?
say is
like
what you do, right?
Yeah, I just document conversations.
Yeah.
And whether I'm factually correct or not, I'm hoping people call me out if.
Well, and because you're interviewing someone, you're only as factually correct as what I'm telling you.
Or as
you know what I mean?
What pops in my head
or
at the
what pops
time.
in your head at the time, right? So that doesn't have to play into it. It's like, yeah, in hindsight, you might listen and go, oh, shit, like that wasn't quite what I hoped. But you know what I mean? But it's there already. It's out.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
But it goes back to that, I'll eat my words when I have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But also, a man's only as good as his word.
That's right. Exactly.
Right?
And only as good as the word at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're Donald Trump, then
it doesn't matter.
Then it doesn't matter.
At all.
Because, he's a great president by anyone who is more right than me.
Yeah.
I hate the right and the left colloquialisms.
Well, we like labels in our world, though,
We
right?
do.
It makes it easier if you label someone as a right or a left or
You
whatever.
need labels, and it's important as a child to develop so you can put people in boxes so you can understand the world.
Yeah.
Like, there's real developmental reasons why we stereotype people.
Oh, for sure it is. And it usually starts with the truth.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
Right? But then that truth gets carried, that label then might be unfairly used later, but it was created at a time when you needed that label.
Absolutely. It's kind of like why people think the North Shore is, sketchy. When
I've lived over the North Shore most of my life over here in
I love the
Kamloops.
North
I love
Shore.
the North Shore. I don't want to live on the hill. I live
Wow.
up in Brock where it's
I live
warmer
in
a month
Brock.
earlier, and it's
Come
you know
over
what
and
I mean?
smoke a joint
We
with
should-
me one day if
absolutely.
that's what you do.
That's what
I don't
do.
know how to roll, so just warning
I've
you.
just been buying the pre-rolled stuff from the store these
I
days.
have not been smoking the legal stuff. I smoked it once.
Yeah.
I actually smoked it in the alleyway behind Redbeard.
Okay, yeah.
And it was like the cheap 421.
Oh.
And it's like 100 milligrams of THC, but it's like only an inch long of weed. And
Oh
it's
my
like a
God.
flat tip.
Yeah.
So by the time you light it, you've burnt half of it. So that's 50 milligrams blasting.
Gone.
And like, for those who don't understand, 50 milligrams THC, that's a good night for me, slowly consuming.
Absolutely.
And I had really bad anxiety, and I had to go like lay down and sleep. And then I I recorded my John Eady interview, and I was still kind of stoned. And I haven't bought their stuff since.
I bought it since. My wife's picked it up for me in the last month just because of the personal stuff I've had going on, which has helped. I'll have it at night before bed to unwind. But I kind of, in the golden day, I still have my old pipe that a buddy of mine, it's like a Gandalf pipe, but he made it for me. He's a woodworker. And in the day, I just put the butt in there and light it up. And
Nice.
then it's slow. Like it's a slow enjoyment,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And I kind of, if I go buy again, I'll probably just go buy like some bud. And just use that. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
But Ontario, man, they got moldy weed out right now, and like
Well, and that's the thing that's kind of, I think the legalization's great.
totally
Rock on. And I think the fact that a bunch of stores are coming up will create competition, which will hopefully affect some good prices. But then you're also going to get some shitty weed, or the weed laced with stuff, or like you say, the moldy weed or something like that. Like,
or like people are getting shake or whatever it be, right? Like we have some of the best growers in the interior, right? And I'm not gonna name names, but you guys know who they are if you're in the industry. And I'm really excited because I'm hearing some rumors about like a craft cannabis industry. I just don't know how it happens.
it'd be like beer. Like it took for years, like decades, for craft beer to come out, right? But thank God it did, because it just creates a variety. Like I as a rule, I drink like Miller High Life. It's
Really?
affordable. It's not bad.
It's like $1.40 at Brock Center or whatever.
That's another reason why I buy it from Brock Center.
Sneaky Weasel was my
That's a good one too. It's a good
until
one
I got
too.
a bad batch, and I haven't drank since second half August.
Really?
Yeah,
Good for you.
I just smoke weed.
That's not bad. I try to just drink on weekends unless I'm doing something social. But yeah, no, I think it'll be good if a craft weed society comes out. I think a movement comes out, because I think that'll just make more options for people who like it, right? And I think now that there are rules and regulations to it and it's legal, I think it'll just make it a safer product. I remember once being at a party and having weed, but it was laced with cocaine.
Like, actually, or do you think that's just a rumor?
No, I knew it was laced with cocaine. That was one of the... It was both relaxing and hyper stimulating at the same time. I was up all night.
You don't think that was just like a crazy weird sativa? Because like I can smoke. Like I'm not lying when I say I ran 50K on 3 hours sleep stoned.
Yeah.
Like I did it.
You did it. That, which I think is a great
Right?
experience.
Like it gives energy, right? Like it's so unless you know someone like I can't believe someone would take something as expensive as cocaine
and put it into
and put it on something as cheap as weed.
It was weird. All I know, I was up all night.
Yeah.
All night. And I was flying and happy, and I sold my house. Thank God everyone else was as high as I was because I didn't have to worry about the whole fallout from that.
Wait, you sold your house high
At the
on
time,
cocaine?
High.
What?
It was like, yeah.
Are you serious? Like you signed papers?
Well, no,
like,
we didn't sign the papers, but they were ready to go, and they're going to come back like on Monday, and we were going to do all the paperwork and everything like that. And I remember the next day shitting bricks because it was a Sunday. And then all Monday, I was just like, please don't show up, and they never showed up.
So you had this party idea that you wanted to sell your house?
They had the party, and we were all high on this stuff, and it was, yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't really mine to sell either at the time, so.
Well, the bank owns it anyways, so.
Yeah, exactly, but that didn't happen, but I mean, there's dangerous things, obviously, when you lace weed with cocaine that can happen.
I have trouble believing it. The people are saying, oh, yeah, they're, the fentanyl and all, it's like, no, there's...
It's something else.
But yeah. They're not putting that in weed. Like, I really wholeheartedly believe that's the fear-mongering.
Different. Yeah, I'm sure. And I think a lot of what goes on is fear-mongering. And we were talking about media. Media perpetuates that.
Yeah.
Right? They call it now, it's a crisis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, what's happening is that people who are using drugs they shouldn't be using are dying. Right?
Which I have compassion for, but also a stone heart.
If you use it, there's a risk involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it sucks, but sometimes you get the short end of the stick.
They know the risks, right?
They know the risks.
And this is talking from someone who lost a fellow 20-something-year-old friend in Ottawa a couple weeks ago from the opioid crisis, right? Like,
I'm sorry to hear that. That's awful.
Yeah, he was gonna rock the boat. Like he was an up and comer.
Yeah.
We were internet friends.
Nice.
But,
But things happen, right? Like look at Chris Cornell, lead singer from Linkin Park. You know what I mean? If you use
that's a whole thing to unpack, though.
Yeah.
Like, do you know his backstory?
I don't know all of it. No.
Oh my gosh!
I know Cornell at least struggled with mental health issues for like his entire life. Well, look, Cobain, same thing, right?
So we're talking Linkin Park's singer.
Linkin Park singer now. Okay, yeah, right? I don't know his whole story. No.
So here's like the shortest I can pack it down to. His father was a police officer.
Okay.
Who worked in child protective sexual assault service side of things.
Okay.
Busting pedophiles and shit. And his own son was sexually assaulted for years by someone close to him. And his father, who's a cop in that thing, had no idea. And that's what's plagued him from the get.
Interesting.
And Linkin Park, like, I have like a love-hate relationship because it brought me close to one of my friends. We met on the bus listening to Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a movie producer you will one day interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nano Clow out of Vancouver. He's going to do like blockbuster, massive. He's actually got a movie, I think, coming out. Maybe it's already out.
When is that? Do you know? What's it called?
I need to text him and ask him the thing. Like he's been doing like the film circuit.
Okay.
And I asked him when I saw him, I'm like, will it be in theaters in Kamloops? And he's like, yes, it will be in select theaters. So,
which could be the Paramount then, probably.
Which I have no idea what the name is, whatever, because he was so like tied up and all that. You
can find that out. That would be awesome.
Yeah, he's a really cool cat. Like, and what I respect about him is he doesn't have Facebook.
No.
And he's super low key, and he's just hustling, grinding it out, doing the millennial Vancouver lifestyle.
Nice, good for him.
Yeah.
I think I respect people who are in that industry who don't. Like Harrison Ford, who's like one of my favorites. He's like an idol of mine. But he's some guy. He lives on a ranch in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't do a lot of press. He's not always in the media. You know what I mean? He doesn't run. He's not all over social media. He shows up. He does his job. He does the little promotional stuff you have to do, and he disappears. Yep. And he says he lives where he lives because he can go to the corner store, buy a bunch of nails from the hardware store. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody bugs him.
Yep.
And I think that is, to me, is cool. To not want any of the stuff that goes along with it. That's just your job. And that's what you do.
And the flip side, it's also cool to see Will Smith explode on YouTube and social media. Yeah, he's got a big production company behind him, whatever. But it's still his Instagram or whatever is very much him.
Oh, well, he did when they announced the new Bad Boys movie. Him and Martin Lawrence went on. They did a little video together. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
But he just went up and he kind of said, yeah, it's happening. And he was just super pumped. And you could tell it was, you know how Will Smith gets when he's all pumped up? Martin Lawrence came in, they shook hands, yeah. And he was like, he can't handle it anymore. He turned it off.
Yeah.
But I think that was cool. I think in this world you have the two perspectives. Like you have the people who I respect for not embracing it. And then there's the people who use it right.
Yep.
And aren't posting every little thing that they do. You know what I mean? Like some people put up every fucking thing they do through the day. Or every thought they've got. You don't need that.
Yeah.
Use it smartly, and it can be a great tool.
Yeah. Like when I was here earlier today getting my coffee, and I was talking to the barista Bryn. I was like, she's like, "You're the podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Sorry, I'm pretty aggressive online because I run so many different accounts. That's how I promote it, right? Yep. You know, when I want people to know I exist, I make sure they know.
Yeah.
And which I think makes it more interesting if I just disappear because you do a.
Well, like, hey, look at me, he's gone.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I've always struggled with that with our stuff, too. How much do I post?
Yeah.
What do I post where? How do I do it? Like, I try to keep my Facebook page itself more personal shit.
Yeah.
Then when I show Instagram's more about promotion of, you know what I mean? And then Twitter's whatever.
But it's also interesting because, like I as a numbers guy from, like, you know, running as, like, a sales manager, running, like, a BDC, and it was all numbers on conversions of selling cars and, you know, Auto Trader leads, convert this thing. Like, I know the numbers.
Yeah, you understand the game.
So, like, when I do look at the numbers, it's also like my return on investment on XYZ platform is actually 0 listens. But it develops a whole different side of myself, which maybe will pan out.
Yeah.
So it's difficult.
There's value in that, but you have to play around with it and see what's working and what's not, right? And see what kind of reactions you're getting. Instagram, I find, is really good for just using visual ways to promote, hey, we're in the studio tonight, hey, this is a movie I watch, but it all ties into what I do.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like the Facebook page is about just getting the shit out there. You know what I mean? And engagement as much as I can.
So what do you think where do you think like We Came to the Basement actually like fits in this like next evolution of like fighting with, you know, the big celebrities who are getting into podcasting too? Like, how can like the OGs still exist? Because even my wife didn't understand the whole I want to start a podcast thing.
Okay, yeah.
She did not get it. She didn't really buy into it, especially when I, you know, spend money I didn't have.
Yeah.
But now she's like, ooh, so-and-so's getting a podcast. And kind of like the way of like Nevin, like in kind of like a backhanded compliment. Congratulations, you got in the wave before it really took off. Even though I was late to the game. Like,
oh yeah, no, it's and that's the trick, because I'm even hearing now that like, you know, right now you can go out and watch trailers for movies on different sites, but the studios might be trying to take something of that back. You know what I mean? And different studios, like Disney now has their own streaming service. Yeah. So you're not going to see Disney movies on Netflix. Warner Brothers is creating their own streaming service.
But
so, I mean,
I think Disney, though, signed an agreement with Netflix till like 2020.
2020, but then after that, but you know what I mean? And I think you're going to just see, you're right, like, what do we do then with celebrities who they're just going to put their own shit out there? Why would they want to talk to us? Well, and I think that's a way, as this whole process evolves, of just figuring out a way to make you still relevant.
Yeah.
So, and I think what it comes down to is us as personalities, and then our interpretation of what's going on. So, say a celebrity does their own podcast about what they're talking about, and they state something. Then we come in as ourselves and go, "Hey, I want to talk to X celebrity about what you said, because this has got me thinking about this."
Yeah.
Right? And making it so it's like, then it's almost like giving them a chance to talk again.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
And I think that's kind of how it's going to have to work.
It totally. It goes back to the radio DJ thing.
Yeah.
You know, investing in the personality,
exactly.
not just the content.
So, you know, you've talked about this yourself, but I want to ask you in my own way about it and bring my own spin to it.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can make yourself, if you have the clout, like we were talking about at the beginning, then maybe it's a value to them to do that. Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a reason why, you know, I grew up in the era of the Tonight Show, but everybody wanted to be on that show because they wanted to be interviewed by Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Right? Even the Muppet Show in its heyday, they wanted to be on the Muppet Show because it was the Muppet Show. So you kind of want to make yourself now the Muppet Show of that thing that people want to come and be on your show.
Which is why it was interesting for me, because it was like, I lucked out that Adam Donnelly saw my Reddit post, so I got on CFJC TV, which is like a pillar of starting my podcast.
Absolutely.
And from there, I got a Kamloops BC Now in focus.
Saw that.
I got an actual article where they quoted me for my 420 episode, which was nice. So now I have a journalist using
the quote, which is it's great to get there. Yeah.
And then I got another In Focus article, and then I got a blogger, and like, so like I think Kamloops is also in this interesting place where like I could meet with yourself, I can meet with news and whatever be right, and you can build that clout so you can eventually become the Johnny Carson.
Yeah, and that's how you do it, right? Like over the years we've been on like 98.3, we've been on CFJC Midday, we've been on like the Daily News, we were in Kamloops this week, you know what I mean? You kind of hit those stone, and each of that gives you just a little bit more.
As seen on TV, ABC.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I thought for me it was awesome. I was on a CKNW, which is a Vancouver news show, talking about the new releases coming out, which I think was 2016. And I mean, it feels good.
Yep.
But it also just raises your stakes a bit.
Yeah. But so you're 8 years into this. Now it's like figuring out
where to go next.
Where do you go next?
Right. And not becoming comfortable. As soon as you get complacent, right? Like, oh, I've been 8 years and I've done this and I'm fine. No. You got to think, all right, well, this is changing all the time. So how do you change? And that's like Sean and I always talk every week. Like, how can we fucking make this new? What new steps can we do, right? Like,
you and I are like completely opposite spectrums where you're like, how can we make this new and fresh? And I'm like, how can I tone it down and be comfortable?
I was like that. We were happy. Like, we did the same thing on the X for 3 years.
Yeah.
If it worked, it was fine. Then we kind of just adapted that format into a podcast when we went back to just doing podcasts. But now it's like, all right, we've got our radio 8 to 10 minute section, which is kind of its own entity. And we create stuff around it, but we don't just want to talk about review movies every week because there's so much people already doing that. So we talk about other stuff, right? And now we've started, instead of just being strictly movies, we've gone into all things entertainment. So we'll talk music, we'll talk like YouTube videos, talk like UFO video, just anything that we think is interesting, but putting our spin on it and always referring back to a film reference somehow.
Yeah, and that I think that's the thing that like I struggle with because like I don't want people to like say like I sold out. Or like Cameo's not what it once was, or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I continue on the trajectory that I'm hopefully heading towards, right. But it's like, are they investing in me, or are they investing in Kamloops, or was Kamloops like the gateway to me, and or how that all works, right? Like, is Cameo? It's like, how do I expand Cameo from just being, me meeting with Kamloopsians, which I've started changing, to being Kamloops Unscripted Podcast.
Which I think is great.
Which I think is simpler.
It's perfect. It's simpler, and it opens you up. You can do anything you want.
Totally.
Right. Like, look, this conversation hasn't just been about me. It hasn't just been about you. It hasn't been about Phil. It's been about a whole bunch of different things. You should let the conversation just evolve. That's what makes it interesting.
I think my only thing is, like, you have to be in Kamloops.
Yeah.
Like, I have to meet you, right? If I can't meet you in person, then I have to create a different podcast altogether, unless you have a very explicit connection to Kamloops, and phone is the only thing that would possibly work.
Kamloops hockey players in an NHL team that wins the Stanley Cup, you get to talk to them. You're going to talk to them on the phone.
Yeah. If I have an opportunity to do that, there's no way I'm turning that down an opportunity.
Why would
because
you?
You're going to be like, ooh, you're not meeting them in person. Like, be like, okay, I can lose you as a listener if that's what it's going to be. But like, if this gives me like 10x more listeners.
Oh, could you imagine?
Like, it's like, and that's what people also don't, which I like, because I worked with Shannon Ainsley of, she writes for Kamloops Matters.
Yeah, I've spoken with her, yes.
Very happy because, like, that I was able to put out, like, I don't give a fuck what people think about me.
Yeah.
And have that on the record from someone else's point of view.
Well, that was a great article.
Thank you.
I read that. No, and that you want that, because that sort of this is who I am.
I needed
fuck you
that.
If you don't get it.
Yeah. Because I feel like I'm just battling that all the time of people wanting to give their opinions. And
you will through the whole course of doing this. It's a fight you have constantly, right?
And it's like, what's even funnier, though, is like, well, I started this because a lot of reasons, but one of them was the media wasn't doing what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I did it myself. You have more tools in your pocket with your cell phone than I started with.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, well, that's just it.
So
I didn't have a phone like that when we started.
If I'm not doing what you want, fucking do it yourself.
Exactly.
And share it in the community Facebook group, and we'll support you.
Exactly. And I think that's why I like that group that you started, right? Because now you got a bunch of people who, like ourselves in there, you've got other people who are artists in there, you've got musicians, photographers, and it just creates this whole world. All right, well, we're just all going to share.
And I want it to be self-promotion, because so many groups are like anti-self-promotion.
Well, people are scared to promote their shit. No, man, you're the only one that's going to do it.
Yeah.
So get the fuck out there and promote your stuff.
Unless you bring someone in to promote for you, like you're going to do for me.
That's right. Exactly. But that's a mutual thing, and you're promoting my show to people who maybe would never have heard it.
Yeah, and it's like, we have a good conversation, so it should be ROI positive from the get-go. And second of all, if you gain 2 listeners, are those 2 listeners not worth
it's worth
time?
The time completely, man. Like, it's so worthwhile.
Like, what if those 2 listeners are the ones who help you monetize your podcast?
Because you just don't know.
You don't know.
You never know who's listening or who's paying attention, and that's the beautiful thing about it.
Kamloops is so small
that,
like, I've met with a couple different people that it's just like, we're working together now. Handshake deal.
Yep.
We're we all have our own goals, but we're moving,
forward together.
Right?
Yep.
So it's an exciting time, and man,
we probably killed your hour. Easy.
We're 140. It's mostly like how long I can, how long the batteries last.
Is it? Yeah.
I used to. I was listening to Tim Ferriss, and he's like, always swap out your batteries. And then I just felt bad because I was always wasting batteries or whatever it be, right? And I didn't want to spend $40 on like rechargeable batteries because I didn't have $40 in my bank account.
Exactly. So you got to use what you got, right?
Yeah, I was using dollar store batteries for a long time, and I was lucky if I got 32 minutes out of a set of dollar store batteries, which literally kept the podcast under 20 minutes.
There you go. You always do. We got 32 minutes, man. So let's go now.
Yeah. Now I use better batteries, but. It's interesting. Is there anything we haven't chatted about?
I think we hit almost everything.
Just like everything in the world that there is to talk about, we have talked about on this podcast.
Which has been phenomenal. I've had a fantastic time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jason, who comes from the basement, where can people find you if they're interested?
We have our site, wecamefromthebasement.com.
Which is back up and live. And
back
not
up and
deleted.
live after I almost killed it last night. You can find us on Facebook at the same, and on Twitter at CameTheBasement.
Came the basement.
Yeah, it wouldn't let us do the whole thing, so it was like at.
But Twitter,
Came the Basement.
Kamloops doesn't like Twitter unless you're a journalist or a politician.
Yeah, so I don't really care if you follow us on Twitter. but definitely check out wecamefromthebasement.com or find us on Facebook.
So that's a good attention hack if you want some journalist attention. Is use hashtag Kamloops and interact with people on Twitter. Not talking to you, talking to the audience.
Just in general, no.
In general, really easy way to get some attention because it's only politicians. And it's only journalists.
And they're all talking to each other
anyways. So it'd be nice to see some interesting creative voices pop up there. But, the fact that a lot of people don't have Twitter and they don't realize how powerful it honestly is blows my mind. But thank you, Jason, for meeting with me. And, wow, you're crushing your 3rd beer now.
That's where I'm stopping.
You're stopping.
But no, it's been a pleasure, Nevin. Definitely. We'll do this again.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And, thank you for listening to this episode. And if you made it this far, my gosh, I wish I could buy you a beer, but I am poor. So if you want to support me on my Patreon, it's patreon.com/cameo-podcast. A couple bucks away from having all my hosting covered. And if I manage to get, a few, $75 a month on Patreon, I will be buying a fancier recorder, which hopefully increases my productivity, quality, and everything. So I think you guys would want that. So feel free to support me there. And be sure to share your shit. Not that it's shit. Share your stuff in the community Facebook group, right? I am looking for things to share on my Cameo Creative Facebook page. And who knows, maybe I might have a content that's helpful for you because my Rolodex is growing and it's kind of cool. So thanks again. And I'm going to end it there because I suck at endings, blah, 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 blah.